I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, and I would like to give a special shout out to Riverbend High School's Psychology Club. You all requested this video on tips to manage depression. I am a licensed psychologist with over 15 years of clinical experience, and I have worked in schools and a lot of different settings. Now I currently own my own practice. And during COVID, during all of these times, I've seen an increase in people coming for things like depression or anxiety. Just a little disclaimer. Just in case anything within this video brings anything up for you, please talk with your school social worker, your school guidance counselor. Please reach out for some help and support. I will also put some links in the bio. I thought it was important to start out with sadness is normal. Sadness is a normal emotion. Nobody feels happy all of the time. We all have periods of time where we feel a little bit down or we feel a little sad. Depression is a little bit different. Depression is this heavy feeling. It's this heavy, weighty feeling that lasts for months, possibly more than months. But it's this sadness that is really, really deep and it's really strong and it stays around for a long period of time. And in this video, there will be some resources that will help with both depression and with sadness. But if someone is experiencing significant depression, I'd really recommend that they talk with a therapist. They might need to talk with their medical doctor. Make sure that they talk with their parents about that. I have some tips over on my TikTok channel at Dr. Patrice Berry with resources and tools for how people can reach out for support, especially if their parents might not be on board with them asking for services. This is a good time to also talk about seasonal depression, or sometimes people kind of get down around the holidays. The holidays sometimes bring up negative memories for people. And so just being kind with yourself and being gentle with yourself, because sometimes with the change in seasons, so during the fall and winter, we have less sunlight, and that can affect how much vitamin D, that can affect the way that our minds and our body work. If you feel like you have more depression during the winter months, being able to talk with your doctor about that, they will sometimes recommend things like getting sunlight when you can. They might recommend supplements. They might have some recommendations. But there is a such thing as seasonal depression, people that have these depressed moods during certain seasons. There can also be mood changes around hormones. And once again, normalizing that nobody's emotion stays the same all of the time. I'm really big on breaking stigma related to mental health, and we should really not use words like crazy or bipolar or use words like that because it really stigmatizes individuals that have mental health. So I'm a licensed psychologist, and there's this big book that I use called the DSM-5, and within it, no one is crazy. So no one that comes to see me is crazy. The people that come to see me, they need some help and support and they need some resources, and they're extremely strong to be able to go, which leads right into the next tip, that vulnerability is not weakness. So asking for help and support, letting someone know, hey, I'm not okay, that doesn't make you bad. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It just means that you need a little extra help and support. And so finding safe ways to be able to do that can be really helpful. The work of Brene Brown, she's the one that talks a lot about vulnerability not being weak and that it takes courage to reach out for help and support. Figuring out what things kind of make the sadness worse. So there might be certain music that makes it worse, and there might be some music that makes it better. There might be some shows that make it worse. There might be some shows that make it better, and that can change. So this one song might be really encouraging. It might make me feel better on some days, and then on other days, it might not do the same. And so being aware of how the things that you're watching and seeing, especially on social media, how those things impact you. Often loneliness can really bring up a lot of things for people. We have this acronym called HALT, HALT. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? And that sometimes any one of those things can bring up a lot for a person. And so being able to reach out and address any of those basic needs. Because let's say I'm feeling off, but really I haven't eaten lunch yet and I'm actually hungry. So meeting that need, then I can reassess, how am I feeling? What's going on? How am I doing after that? I did want to talk a little bit about some things that can help when you are feeling a little off at times. And so there are these things we call coping skills. Lots of therapists, if you've ever been to therapy, they ask about coping skills. They try to teach you coping skills, but really the basics of it, it's the things that we do that help us manage our emotions. And while emotions are valid and how I'm feeling might be very real, but I might want to feel a little different. And so sometimes acting opposite. That's a dialectical behavior therapy skill where if I'm feeling down and I'm feeling like just staying in my room alone in my bed, that's how I'm feeling. But doing that just keeps me in that emotion. It doesn't help me feel better, but it doesn't make me feel worse. Versus if I did go for a walk or if I did play games with a friend, if I did get up and do something else, that would actually change the physiology. It would change the chemistry, the physical reactions that I'm having, and that might change the state that I'm in. That often we can sometimes feed sadness what it wants. And so that's where sometimes we avoid those negative coping because there are things that might work for the moment, but it's not going to be sustainable long term. So, avoiding things, and this is a high school presentation, so people shouldn't be doing this anyway, but I like to educate people on the fact that alcohol is a depressant. Alcohol is a depressant. It slows our system, it slows things down, and it can bring up more feelings of sadness. Sometimes with feelings of sadness, some really difficult thoughts come. And so there's a text number where if somebody is having a crisis, if they're having severe thoughts, being able to reach out for help or support. And if you have a friend, if you know someone that's struggling with thoughts that are really strong and really deep, then making sure to let an adult know. And there's a difference between tattling and telling. So, tattling is I'm in trouble and I'm going to tell on you so I don't get into trouble. That would be tattling. Or I'm telling on you so that you get in trouble. Telling or reporting is where I'm concerned about someone's safety. And so I need to let someone know some information. And so being able to talk with guidance, being able to talk with someone if I do have concerns about a friend's safety. I also think it's important to note that just because someone has certain thoughts or just because something is going on in their life, that doesn't mean that they're going to have to go to a psychiatric hospital. That within my office, if somebody comes to me and they tell me they're having some really serious thoughts, the first thing I'm going to do is do a risk assessment. And we're going to talk about how often are those thoughts, how severe are those thoughts, can they think and plan for the future? Are there any things that are helping them? What things are triggering these thoughts? And then we're going to come up with a safety plan. And if the person isn't able to plan for safety, if we're not able to keep them safe, then that's where we're going to consider other options. And I have the goal of doing least restrictive. And so sometimes we can get them into therapy. We can get them a medication management appointment, or we can get, if they qualify for intensive in home therapy or intensive school based therapy. There are a lot of different resources and tools that are available depending on insurance. And that's a whole other conversation that we don't have time for. But also wanted to make a special note about anger. So, anger is what we call a secondary emotion, and sometimes it can be good. And the problem isn't anger or the problem isn't sadness. The problem is sometimes what we do with those emotions. And finding healthy ways to express those can really be important. So, sometimes if I'm feeling angry, there might be some disappointment or grief, or I might be feeling discouraged. I might be anxious and nervous. There might be some worry. There can be a lot of other things that go along with anger, especially sadness. So for some people, their depression comes out as anger. And so being able to, because then if I just tell that person to stop being angry, then I'm not addressing that what's under that anger. And so it can be really important to kind of get to the root. That's something that I like to do within treatment And none of this is to increase anything I have. My outpatient caseload is totally full, totally booked. But I really like being able to provide these resources and tools because we're really seeing an increase in mental health conditions within younger and younger kids and teens. And so being able to give out this information and connect people with appropriate resources, I think that can be really helpful. Often when we're feeling down and depressed and sad, the thoughts can get negative too. And people can have negative thoughts about themselves, negative thoughts about others, or negative thoughts about the world in general. And I can validate an emotion. So I can validate that I'm feeling a certain way. And then also at the same time, be able to not approve of the thought. Like the thought might not be accurate, it might not be true. Sometimes depression and sadness will lie and say, nobody cares about you, nobody this, nobody that. And being able to accept, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Now let me look and see if there's anything that goes against this, because this person does care about me. Okay, there are some things. Being mindful of how much news you watch, even seeing news on social media, the news and being aware of all the different things that are going on throughout different parts of the world, especially as different concerns may arise, especially related to COVID and some of the uncertainty that comes up. Being able to settle in what you do have control over. So, emotions are mine. Nobody else can make me feel better. It is my job to manage my emotion. Now, I might reach out for help or support from others, but it's not their job to fix me or make me better. That it's on me to use my skills, use my tools, get that help and support. And that sometimes with depression, there can also be this biological component too, where the brain chemicals are a little bit off, especially if depression or anxiety runs within family, and lots of different things can interact with each other. And so making sure to talk and reach out for help and support if it's needed. And on helpingguide.org, here are some different tools that can help when someone is kind of feeling down. Reaching out for help and support, and being around people that help you feel safe and cared for. Safety is a feeling. I can physically be safe and not feel safe. And so being able to also express and communicate, because sometimes when you talk with people, they'll try to fix you, and being able to let them know, I just need you to listen, especially if that's more helpful for you. I think that can really help. Being able to connect with others even when you don't really want to, and if you can, connecting face to face if that is safe. That often the ways that we stay in touch might make us feel more disconnected. Caring for a pet or a plant, that caring for something else, that sometimes that can help distract you from what's currently going on. Also pets, just petting a pet, that can sometimes help just ground that emotion within you, and release some endorphins or some of those happy thoughts within your own brain. That's a great question. Are you safe if you don't feel safe? So right now I am streaming this, and I got a question about, are you safe if you don't feel safe? And I can physically be safe. So right now within my office, I could feel like, well, what if this happened? Or what if that happened? Or so my feeling of not being safe might be based on my past negative experience. Because maybe last week I had something happen, and that it might be triggering some of that not feeling safe now. But now, in this moment, this door is locked, the next door is locked. I'm here in this room by myself, but am I 100% safe in this moment right now? Am I feeling 100% safe in this moment right now? And something that I do is I ground myself with my breath, because there are times that, because of the things I might see on the news or that I might have been through in the past or that other people have said, that might interfere with how I'm feeling in this moment. But in this moment, there is no danger, there is no threat. I am 100% safe in this moment. But some people, because of some of the things that they've experienced, they might not experience 100% safety. That their brain is still saying, well, what if that tile fell? Or what if something da da da? And just all of these different what ifs, and being able to ground myself in, yes, none of those things are happening. Yes, I am 100% safe in this room right now. I saw a phenomenal video and I ended up using the sound over on TikTok about how to feel your feelings. Because lots of therapists, including myself, I've talked with people about how to feel their feelings, and I never explained it quite in this way. So I'm going to put up an image and read it now. How to feel your feelings. A thing that sounds obvious, but totally isn't. An unpleasant feeling arises. Your mind launches into whatever inner story accompanies this feeling. I'm unlovable. I'm a loser. I resent my face, just for example. Stop. You are thinking your feelings. Redirect your mind away from these thoughts into the sensations in your body. Mentally name them. My chest is tight, etc. Breathe into the feeling or sensation and allow it. Cry, shake, etc. If you're not in like Target. Your mind will really want to go back into thought-story mode. When this happens, redirect your awareness back into your body. Take deep breaths, keep feeling into your body, let the feeling exist, and trust that it will leave. Observe it changing, watch it move, notice that you have survived. And then the other thing I'll say is that if medication, if therapy, whatever helps you, try to not judge yourself when that helps. That's what helps you. And so mental health is health. We often have the stigma associated with mental health, and we treat it totally different when it's exactly the same. The same way that we go for a yearly physical, I strongly believe that people should get annual mental health checkups just to make sure that everything's okay. How am I doing? Because sometimes we're not aware of how we're doing emotionally because we can get distracted with everything going on and not really pay attention to how we're feeling. And so being able to take time and sit and think. And the other thing that I think is really helpful with therapy is it's this neutral person that doesn't really have a stake in any of the recommendations or things that they're saying. So when I go to my friend and I ask for their support, and they tell me that, oh, you're awesome, or I don't know, whatever my friend says, I might not think that they're being honest or they're being true versus when I connect with the right person. And what I'll say for finding a therapist is it's finding the right person. So if you don't have a connection with your therapist, if you have suggestions about, hey, I'd really like to work on this or I'd really like to try this, you can definitely bring those things up. The most important thing when you're meeting with a therapist is how you feel, like how comfortable are you talking to them? They've done research and realized it really doesn't matter what the therapist does. The most important thing is, do you feel connected with them? Do you feel comfortable talking to them? Those are more important than the specific intervention that the therapist does. Do you feel heard? Do you feel that the person cares about you? Are they helping instill hope? Those are the things that are the most important. If you reach out for help and support from someone, a teacher, a parent, an adult, and you don't get the response that you're looking for, continue to reach out to other people. Please keep talking to people until you get the help and support that you need. I became a psychologist because I had a bad experience with my middle school guidance counselor. I was called to the office and the situation didn't go very well, and I didn't feel seen, heard, or listened to. And so being able to find the right person, I know from personal experience, is extremely helpful. I also talk about my own therapy. That therapy was extremely helpful for me, and I continue to consult with and reach out to people when I need help and support too. This isn't something that you just need when you're a teenager. A lot of these skills and tools that you're learning now, you can take into adulthood. Something else that can really help with managing emotions is taking some of the judgment out of grades, out of am I getting into the school I want to, or taking some of the judgment, because sometimes, let's say I get a grade I don't like, and then I immediately think, "Ah, I'm the worst person ever. I'm so this, I'm so that." But being able to step back and say, okay, this is what I could do to do this differently in the future. There's something called a growth mindset. And that's where I take time to be able to see obstacles as opportunities and not failure. That just because I have an obstacle, just because something doesn't go my way, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me or that things are never going to go right. And so being able to develop a growth mindset can really help you be able to handle whatever comes your way down the road. I wrote a book, Turning Crisis into Clarity: How to Survive or Thrive in the Midst of Uncertainty. And one of the big things within that book was talking about how our brains are wired for survival. We are wired to look for the bad. Practicing gratitude, practicing looking for the good, and not in some toxic positivity where I can't acknowledge when things are tough, but it's saying, even in the midst of this, that I can look for this, or even though this is happening, that doesn't mean that tomorrow's going to be the same way. And so trying to be able to balance that, and practice gratitude, practice being in the moment. That's called mindfulness. Being able to do some of those things can often help. I truly hope that you all got something out of this today. It's really great to be able to meet with you all, and I hope to see you all in person at some point. Good luck with the rest of your school year, and I hope you have a great day.